Good afternoon and welcome to my collaborative team CollaborEAT's live weekly series. We are a 15-minute video conversation on Facebook Live and YouTube. We take place every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and provide digestible content to both professionals and the public on a variety of topics of interest to the collaborative community. Our CollaborEAT Live episode consists of a variety of topics driven by our followers and our members. Topics range from ethical considerations, best practices, problem solving, marketing, specialized topics relating to collaborative practice, tools that we use in the process, and so much more. Whether you join us live or watch us in your own free time, you can count on our weekly CollaborEAT Live series to provide you with thought-provoking conversation and educational information about the collaborative process. I am very excited to welcome Thabatta Mizrahi to our program today. And I think everybody's going to begin to think I'm a liar because I say, and I've had the good fortune of everybody I interview saying you're one of my favorite people, but Thabatta, you're one of my favorite people. Thabatta is an educator having more than two decades of expertise in neurodiversity, special needs, child advocacy, learning development, and curriculum design. She graduated from the University of Miami cum laude with dual specialization in exceptional education and psychology. Thabatta graduated summa cum laude from New York University with a master's degree in special education, varying exceptionalities. A state and nationally certified educator in exceptional education, she holds an educational certificate from Israel's Ministry of Education. Thabatta has applied her skills in the United States and abroad, consulting services in Israel and Brazil, where she created community, home, and educational programs from the ground up for organizations, families, and schools internationally through her own educational consulting company, Thabatta SM Consulting. Thabatta, welcome to our program.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
It happens that Thabatta was the principal of my now 23-year-old son when he was in a special needs program. And it happened that I was going through a divorce while Thabatta was in his program. So Thabatta, tell us how divorce differs for children who have special needs from children who are neurotypical.
So I think to start out, because it's a big question, but I think to start out answering that question, I think it's important to recognize that the term special needs is an enormous umbrella, right? Under which there's so many diagnoses, and under those diagnoses, so many different categories. So the experience of receiving a diagnosis falling under that category of special needs is really a unique experience for each family. And therefore, divorce will be a unique experience for each family. But that being said, I think the flip side of that is that the unique similarity between those families is that at some point in the journey of parenting, that family had to take sort of a detour from the beaten path of, if there is one beaten path, right, of parenting. And that journey off the beaten path, at some point, there was a crisis mode that took place. There was a transformation in how they looked at the unique needs of that child. And that impacts the child, it impacts the parents, it impacts the siblings, it impacts the immediate family. And then it begins to transform into a change really in their lives. And the reason I bring all that to light is because divorce isn't just one more thing that happens to that family, right? It happens in the context of the journey that family has embarked on. And it will still be an adverse childhood experience, and it will still be an enormous disruptor. And there are very specific special considerations that will need to be considered for that family. But I think it's really important to remember that at some point that family really did take a detour from that path that everyone takes in parenting.
And unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time today to talk about what that different path is like, so that our audience can get an idea about what the family is going through when they present themselves in our offices. But what are some of the considerations that professionals in the collaborative process should understand about working with families like the ones we're talking about?
Well, when you think of the considerations for these families, I think it's important to understand the context, and that's that this family, in order to be able to meet the unique needs of that particular child, whether they be academic or behavioral or social emotional or medical or a combination of any of those things, the family had to sort of transform the way they look at daily routines, how they problem solve, how they function as a family, and how they go about their days and their routines. So over the years, the family builds this very intricate support system, a team of professionals, of family members, of friends that sort of work together, and they're all interconnected. Everything is so woven together. And when a disruptor like divorce happens, that all begins to untangle. So I think it's really important to consider that as we begin to kind of untangle this web that has been created over many, many years, we have to think of what are the risks that are going to have to be considered, that will negatively impact this child or this family, and therefore what do we need to protect. And so there's many aspects: the safety of the child, the medical considerations, the academic progress, what therapies are in place so that certain developmental milestones can be met, so that gaps can be diminished, what routines are in place. So all of these things have to be considered, because it's almost like you're moving a puzzle from like the dining room table to the floor. You have to make sure that you try and keep those puzzle pieces together.
That's a good analogy. As I was going to ask you, it comes down things as basic as eating patterns and scheduling, right?
Yeah, or who takes the child to school, what questions are asked on the car ride home, who makes simple decisions during meetings, what's the schedule of the medication. So many little intricate details that could have major impact.
Right. Tell me about the benefits of the collaborative process to families who have children with special needs.
Well, I would say that the collaborative process allows for the client's self-determination. So as a consequence, it allows for the personalization of almost every step taken, and it allows for the family to keep the child's needs front and center and allow the focus to remain on the child. So simple things like, well, not simple, but as one of the many considerations.
As simple as getting a puzzle from a dining room table to
right. Right. But, an analysis of whether the parenting plan should be a traditional parenting plan or an alternative parenting plan. The collaborative process allows for that. It allows for the recognition that sometimes their unique needs require a unique process, and there's space for that in the collaborative.
And there are financial considerations as well, right?
100%. There's financial considerations, and the considerations taken in time sharing, considerations taken in parenting plans are completely intertwined also with the financial considerations. I can give an example. If a parent, there's been one parent who usually made academic or medical decisions, and all of a sudden the other parent now wants to share that decision, but the journey that's been taken to make those decisions hasn't been considered, and different medication is brought into the picture, or different decisions about therapies or academic decisions that could change a whole slew of processes, and maybe have to there may be regression, there may be certain changes that will end up costing that family more money in the long run. Or even something as simple as having to, redo a psychoeducational evaluation every 3 years. So they're all very much intertwined.
I think we also often come across families where both parents are not on the same page regarding the child's diagnosis, using autism spectrum disorder, for example, where we may have one parent who's in denial. What does the collaborative process do in that situation to help the family work through the issues that come up?
Well, I think that the fact that there's a mental health professional present, and that there are facilitators advocating for this team effort, really helps the process, in that parents are reminded that they don't have to be against each other, but they have to work as a team for the benefit of the child. So while they may not agree on where they stand with regard to the diagnosis, they can be reminded of the journey they've taken thus far and what has and hasn't worked for the child, so that they can make decisions with the child's needs front and center.
And where would you see your own role in the collaborative process?
Well, I think that even before I came into the world of collaborative, I was entrenched in that process with the families, whether it was through the lens of the child, or in the office with a box of tissues with the families. And I think that my role in collaborative allows for the support of the professionals involved in remembering to take this unique look at the process, remembering to keep the family's journey in mind when certain decisions are being made, but also to advocate for the child's needs when taking certain decisions and making certain considerations in the process, because I can kind of foresee things that could possibly happen in a way that perhaps somebody who hasn't gone through that journey or hasn't held the family's hands in the way that I have maybe can't foresee it. Right.
My collaborative team worked very hard at putting a presentation together on just this topic. Can you tell us a little bit about the considerations that went into the presentation and into the handout that we can make available to our audience if they're interested?
Absolutely. I think that the beauty of the presentation is that it really took the various aspects that are involved in collaborative in working with families of children with special needs, from the financial aspect to the legal aspect to the psychological aspect, working with the mental health professional, as well as working with a consultant like myself. And it really kind of wraps it in a nice little bow for professionals to kind of use as a sheet of, did I consider this? Did I consider this? Did I kind of put this into place?
Right, because we cover issues like guardianship, for example, which in the case of a lot of these children is a forgotten matter when we're all at the table, right? And guardianship can become a very big issue when the child's about to turn 18.
It also puts the abstract conversation in the context of a historical legal context, and parallels it to special education. So it kind of reminds us of where we are in the journey, how we got here, and why this is a unique lens that we should use. And also, how does that benefit us as professionals? Can we use that lens towards other things as well?
Any final thoughts for our audience?
Only that there is only to gain from using this unique lens, stepping out of our comfort zone a little bit, and remembering that fair is not same for all, but meeting the unique needs of all our clients.
And especially our children. Thank you, Tab. There's so much that you have to tell us, and I wish we had more time, but if you are interested in more, please reach out to Tabitha or reach out to my collaborative team. We spent over 1.5 years putting this program together. And if you would like to be a guest on my collaborative team's CollaborEAT Live, please write to info@mycollaborativeteam.com or reach out to us on social media. Tab, it's been lovely as always spending some time with you this afternoon. Thank you for joining us.
Always a pleasure. Thank you for having me.